Seems a lot of young kids these days don't know what blotting paper is.
What? What is that?
They don't know what blotting paper, yeah.
They use a fountain pen, don't they? It's all just borrowed, isn't it?
Two fingers, two thumbs.
Okay, that's brings up a 6.
Okay, it's your call.
Yeah.
You're going to start the meetings.
You can, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. The town clerk has asked if I just kick the meeting off. This is a meeting of the Maddox Charity Management Committee. And the first item on the agenda is to elect a chair. Have we any nominations?
I'd like to propose Councillor Peter Green as chair.
I was going to propose you, but I'll second you now then.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else interested in taking on the role of chair?
No.
Okay, well, would you like to vote? I won't vote for myself.
Okay.
No.
You in favour, Councillor Gray? You can hold your hand up. Yeah, that's agreed.
Okay, thank you all for your support.
Yeah.
Town clerk, have we got any apologies for absences?
Yes, I have, Chair. So the Mayor, Councillor Chuka, has a mayoral commitment and Councillor Marie has a work commitment. And Councillor Gray is substituting for the Mayor, Councillor Chuka, and Councillor Morehouse is substituting for Councillor Marie.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks to those councillors for substituting and making sure that the meeting is quorate. The next item, declaration of interest, to receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of the business to be transacted on the agenda. Do we have any such declarations? No. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
The next item, item 4, is a public participation. Is there anybody expressed an interest to
No
speak?
request, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we move then to item 5, the terms of reference. Members are to discuss the drafting of terms of reference for this committee for submission to the Town Council for approval. The Town Clerk has provided the draft template for use by the committee. Members are invited to debate and form suggestions for the terms of reference, and a decision is required. So I hope you've all had a chance to read the terms of reference. Anybody got any opening comments on that, or should we just kind of work through the document?
Work through, I think, best so we don't miss anything.
Okay. So the role of the committee has been highlighted by the town clerk. The purpose of the committee is to be responsible for, and earlier today I circulated some drafting with the purpose to oversee the charity's management, ensure compliance with regulations, and support the charity's overall objectives. Are those forms of words acceptable to people, or are there any comments or other suggestions? So that's on here.
Chair. Instead of ensure compliance with regulations, could it say ensure regulatory compliance? Because it's the regulation from the Charity Commission that's the key.
Okay. Any other suggested changes or comments? Okay, we can always come back on this when it comes to full council. So then the membership, I think you've all read it. There will be a minimum of 6 councillors, including the mayor, appointed by the trustee at the annual trustee meeting each year. The mayor will be vice chair of the committee. It might be appropriate, because of the separation from the town council, that the mayor actually becomes the chair of this management committee. Is that appropriate, Town Clerk?
There's no reason why you couldn't do that if that's what you
Okay.
wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to say once the charity is fully established, the mayor will be the chair of the committee.
Okay.
Is that a proposal?
I as a proposal now or at the end?
I was going to say, if you want to do it all on block, you can do it at the end if everybody's happy with what Councillor Breen and everybody's had input. And as Councillor Breen pointed out, we'll be going to council after this as well.
So that would alleviate the need for the next sentence, the chair of the committee to be elected at the first meeting. The quorum will remain at 5 councillors. All happy with that?
Yeah, I think that's setting a very high bar. 5 out of 6. It's much higher than for other committees.
Councillor Morehouse.
I propose 4 out of 6. That's 2/3 of the requirement.
Okay. Any objections to 4? Town Clerk.
Sorry, just to point out, there are 7 members on this committee. It said minimum 6, but you've actually got 7. So, but obviously other committees as well do have 5, like Human Resources does have 5. But it's completely up to members. If you wanted to alter it, you can.
I think if you have 7 minimum 4 to be quorum, couldn't we?
7 and 5 is fine.
7 and 5 is
I
fine.
think it's important to maintain consistency. So if it's 7 out of, if it's 5 out of 7 for other committees, it should be the same for this one.
Okay. Councillor Carter.
Yeah, I just want to say 2 things. One thing, we need to realise that this is separate from the town council. So let's not set up another Sandwich Tollbridge fund. And we all realise that this isn't Sandwich Tollbridge fund version 2. And the second thing I was going to say was with the thing, I would have said 5. Because where you've got 4, with all due respect with 4, if you've got an equal vote, that's why we always have an odd number, isn't it?
Yeah, but then again, if you've got 5, and then you've got the casting vote, isn't it?
Surely 5 out of 7 people can be bothered to come here.
No, I don't mean, I'm talking when you vote. Because at the moment, if you've got 4, and it's possibly the chair or the mayor, they're casting vote, wouldn't
If we've got 7 members and they can be deputised as they have been tonight,
they?
come on, this is going to be a quarterly meeting. It can't be that difficult, can it? To get 5 people here.
Yeah.
Let's show some commitment.
What do you mean, chose them? I take umbrage at that. That's a stupid question. I wouldn't be here tonight if I didn't take it seriously.
No, we agree. I think we agree with all other committees are 5. So we agree with 5.
All
Okay.
other STC committees.
Yeah.
This isn't.
The idea, I think, is rather than have co-opted, if we have more members than, so there should always be enough to be quorum. Because people that just come in ad hoc, they don't really follow the meetings, do they? Unless they follow it all the way through. That's all I'm saying.
Right. So the proposal is at the moment 7 with a quorum of 5.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
All right. We're going to vote in block at the end.
Oh, okay.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay with that, Town Clerk?
Yeah.
The appointment of any potential co-optees will take place at the first meeting of the committee following the annual trustee meeting each year. So come to that. Town councillors who are not...
Sorry, Councillor Breen. Sorry, Chair. There is the option to co-opt up to, and I had question marks here. I don't know if you want to agree a number or you want to leave that to decide at a later date.
Say 2.
Yeah.
2. Yeah, 2.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
Town councillors who are not members of the committee may attend the meetings and fully participate without voting rights. And it's good to see 2 councillors here tonight. Thank you. Roles and relationships. The trustee will provide the opportunity for the endorsement of regular reports from the chair via its meeting agenda. The chair of the committee can produce a report to seek support from the trustee
Yes, trustee.
for any committee recommendations before the next committee meeting to expedite decision. The committee is required to hold meetings on a quarterly basis. think that should be enough.
Yeah.
We might need to have, in the early stages, to have a couple of extraordinary meetings, but I think as an ongoing basis, that makes sense.
I was just going to suggest perhaps we should do it on the civic year, so it's like May to July, and then August would be October, so you miss out having a meeting in August.
Okay. The schedule of meetings to be agreed by the trustee. The town clerk or nominated officer shall attend all committee meetings. There will be no meeting held in August each year. At least 3 days' notice of meeting shall be sent to members by the communication method agreed with and appropriate to each individual member. The town clerk or nominated officer shall keep a record of the meetings and circulate minutes to the chair and the committee members in 7 days under normal circumstances. Meetings shall be made publicly available on the town council website, I would say on the Maddox charity website. And in hard copy at the Guildhall. Is there people feel there's a need to include that? For hard copies, yes, okay. Voting at the committee will be by show either of voting cards or hands. And then we come to the duties, responsibilities and powers. And earlier today, the town clerk circulated this draft that I put together. Has everybody got a copy of it? Is there any spare copies, town clerk?
No, I swear I've printed enough for you.
I could load up my computer. Sorry, it's going to take some time. So the overall duties, the management committee would be accountable to the trustee, who will make decisions relating to investments, grant awards, employment and charity reports. Any other purpose or any other overlying duties and responsibilities and powers? Okay.
Chair, can I just clarify, because Councillor Carlton made it clear, which I completely agree with, this is an independent charity.
Yeah.
Completely separate from the town council. So is this committee a committee of the town council, or is it an independent committee accountable and reporting to the trustee?
It's the latter. It's an independent committee
Because in the
reporting to the trustee.
in roles and relationships, it talks about the council.
Yeah, it must be the latter. Councillor Green said. It's not a committee of the council.
No, it's not. So
I'm going to say at the moment it is, because you haven't got the trust formed, but obviously, yeah, that's where that, yeah.
we need to be clear.
Okay, so sorry, Councillor.
Just for clarification, so this charity will be different, will be looked upon as a different model than the Tollbridge Fund.
That is definitely the plan. That is definitely the plan. Okay, so the first kind of headline duty, responsibility and power relates to the administration. So there are 5 bullet points here. The first one, to recruit and manage a part-time clerk with responsibility for day-to-day management of the charity. Councillor Wiles.
I think that should say to recruit if necessary, because otherwise we're committing ourselves to.
Any other comments? Okay. B, to establish appropriate processes and procedures. C, to establish a website. D, to arrange meetings of the Charity Management Committee and trustee. and E, to procure and recommend the appointment of any advisors to the charity, e.g. auditor, accountant, solicitors, investment managers. They're just examples. So that's the administrative aspects. The financial aspects are to liaise with the charity's fund manager and any investment advisor in receiving reports and issuing approved instructions regarding the investment portfolio and dividends. To manage the bank account. To prepare monthly reports for submission to members of the committee and a quarterly report for submission and approval by the trustee. Okay, that's all of the financial duties, responsibilities and powers. The next one is grant management, to receive and review grant applications and make recommendations to the trustee. Compliance, to ensure the charity adheres to relevant laws, regulations and the Charity Commission's guidance and annual reporting requirements. And then reporting, to monitor the charity's progress against its objectives and identify areas for improvement. And lastly, to arrange to meet on an annual basis with the local organisations of Sandwich. Councillor Wiles.
Yeah, two things, just going back to grant management, could it say to establish a scheme for awarding grants? And to review applications, etc.
Yeah, that's true.
And then on the last one, should that say charitable local organisations? You don't want to be meeting
Yeah,
everyone.
exactly.
Okay, good comments. Thank you. Councillor Gray. Councillor Gray, were you wanting to make a point?
No, I was going to say the same thing,
Okay,
that it does not refer to local organisations of Sandwich, only charities. Because we seem to be excluding from the benefit of the charity any organisations that are not charities. Aren't we?
well, that's an issue really to do with the actual CIO document, isn't it? But, you know, Georgina she talked about local charity organisations, not local.
No, she talked about local organisations, she didn't mention charity.
She talked of local organisations, that's why I had that drafted there, and other good causes.
So can we come on to, we'll come on to that later. Because I have a serious point I want to make about that
Okay,
later.
right, okay, thank you, Councillor
Yeah,
Morehouse.
I was raising concern about unincorporated non-charity groups that have not got charity status that Georgina supported throughout her life.
Yeah,
They cannot be, I do not believe that they could be excluded. I think that's what Councillor Gray is.
Can we discuss it later?
So, shall we just leave it at local organisations for the moment?
Yeah, I think we should.
For individuals, because I get some very musical-minded. What if someone wanted like a tutorial or an instrument?
Okay, but I would like to think that they were at a school or something, so we would do it via the school.
So the school would require the instrument.
Yeah.
These are only the terms of reference, so not going into the minute detail at this point.
Yeah.
We've just got to agree the terms of reference.
Okay.
Those as amended.
Yeah, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so would anybody like to propose those changes then?
Happy to. I'm happy.
Oh, Councillor Carter, seconded by Councillor Franklin.
Yeah.
All those in favour? So that's unanimous.
Agreed.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is co-opted members. Members are to suggest and agree any invitations to be issued in respect of co-optees. Does anybody wish to make any suggestions?
Well, I'd like to recommend having some Margaret Thompson on our other committee, wasn't she? Our local committee, and she was also a neighbour, and she looked after Georgina. She knew Georgina very well.
I'd like to second that
I would
nomination.
certainly favour that.
Okay, so shall we have a vote on that? Thank you very much. Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah.
Would anybody like to suggest any other co-optee?
I think if it's possible to find someone who has financial knowledge of share portfolios, financial investments, etc., would be very useful.
Okay. Any other suggestions? Well, I would like to suggest that we invite somebody to represent the organisations of Sandwich, because at the end of the day, having somebody who can talk to organisations, I think would be very beneficial to this committee. I think the skills that you're talking about, Councillor Wiles, is something that we ought to kind of pay for. We've talked about it on the toll bridge, about getting proper independent financial planning and so forth. So I would like to suggest, and a name that springs to mind is Lynn O'Donoghue. Is somebody like that, somebody who is, well respected in the in local organisations. Well, I think we should publish the role and invite applications.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Chairman, yeah, with all due respect, I fully follow what you're saying. I think we need somebody that's got far reach out to a large number of organisations. And actually, the first name that jumps to mind from that point of view would actually be Sebastian, the rector, who he knows. You need somebody that's got a lot of connections with a lot of organisations, really. You need somebody of that calibre to take the role on. But if you want to put it out to...
Applications,
Yeah, well, just a short application, just a statement. When we did the survey of local organisations, we approached 53 different organisations in the area. So, there's quite a bit of coordination and so forth that could be needed. Councillor Wiles.
The other person that springs to mind is Siobhan.
Yeah.
She has links with loads of different charities.
Okay.
Not just the community events.
Right. Okay. Well, shall we then let's advertise the role and make informal approaches to Siobhan, the rector, and maybe Lynn O'Donoghue, and anybody else that any councillor would like to suggest. Okay. All right. So is it appropriate now to ask Margaret Thomas to join the meeting, or?
Yes, that's fine.
So if you'd like to come and join.
Thank you. Thank you. No.
Okay, so thank you, Margaret. The next item 7, is the charity establishment for the Georgina Maddox Charitable Trust. Members to consider the draft for the charity incorporation document registration with the Charity Commission and form a recommendation for council. Decision required. And thanks to the town clerk for circulating this document. Does anybody have any comments on the document? Councillor Gray.
Yes, I have. The object clause of the document, clause 3, this has been drastically revised from the earlier drafts. And what concerns me is that we are excluding from being beneficiaries of the request any organisation which is not a charity. Now, there is nothing, I've always understood, the council maintained from the outset that they would try and follow the wishes of Georgina in her will as far as possible. The will makes absolutely no mention of the distinction between charitable community organisations or ordinary organisations.
Yes.
And in fact, a close reading of the will show that there are actually two separate requests, and the beneficiary of both is slightly different. There's a proceeds of the sale of Berry Hall, which are to be used for the benefit of local community organisations and groups, and the council shall in active discretion think fit. The residue, on the other hand, should be used by STC for the benefit of such local organisations and good causes as the council shall in their discretion think fit. Now, nowhere there is this limited to charities. And I know the difficulty we have is that it's a requirement, or appears to be a requirement, in the Charity Commission that the beneficiaries have to be charities. But I think that is not following the wishes of Georgina Maddox. And I don't think you can exclude a whole group of local organisations simply because they're not charities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is and how you get around that. But I mean, I don't know how anyone else around this table feels about that. But I think what this is doing now is actually wrong.
Yeah, I strongly agree with you, Councillor Gray. And I really think I don't feel suitably qualified and experienced to be able to propose revised drafting to this. And I think that we should approach somebody like the Charities Aid Foundation, who help organisations or who help get charities established, for their advice, or we seek another advisor, because Levick's have not really done a good job for us. They've been appointed with us now for over 18 months, and we still haven't got a draft that we're all confident with. Any other comments?
Yeah, I was going to say there might be like I know they're trying to reform Sandwich Football Club. They might want to look after and relocate that to Boatman's Hill. They're not a charity, but they are very much sandwiched, like the tennis club and Willis, don't they? So I think it has to be a bit more open.
Okay, Town Clerk, sorry.
Yes, so following your comments before, I have approached Charities Aid Foundation, and I haven't heard from them yet. But I did hear from Girlings, because that was another organisation you said to approach, and they would be prepared to look over this second draft. The fee would be between £1,500 and £2,000 plus VAT.
Yeah.
So that's how much they said that they would charge for having a look at this second draft for you.
Okay. Sorry, was there some other comments?
Yeah. So, yeah, Marvel's got actually the will of Georgina.
Yeah, we've got a copy of the will here.
The other thing I would like to say is Georgina helped individuals as well. And I don't think we ought to totally discredit individuals. Not everybody will belong to a school or an organisation, but she was always there to help people who really needed it.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, individuals.
And it was very much in her wishes in chats with her over the years that, she would always help somebody who was in need.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was cash or whether it was, a basket for shopping or whatever, she was always a person that saw what was needed and helped. So I don't think we should just totally discount individuals as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's the sentiments of the meeting, really. Sorry, I think Councillor Wiles was first.
So, a couple of questions on this, because we're talking about registered charities as well as other organisations which aren't registered but have charitable objectives. So I'm not quite clear what that might encompass, first of all. But I think also what Margaret says, I've had lots of experience of dealing with charities that do make individual grants to individuals based on the grant application process, where the person has to prove that they are in need or have a specific requirement for that money. So I'm not quite sure why Levick's excluded that from this document. Also, I'm not clear from this whether this would allow the charity to provide capital grants for bigger projects, for example, if we felt that was a good cause for Sandwich.
Well, if it's a local organisation, potentially. I think it's within the
In respect to individuals, it should be clear that where possible, individuals make applications through other organisations, but not to exclude individuals from making them. But for the individuals to actually be encouraged to make applications via bona fide organisations rather than individuals.
Well, we can put that into the grant making process and such.
Well, I mean, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but I mean, the question I think we must ask is, why are we having a charity at all? There is no requirement whatsoever in the will that this money has to go to a charity. It is left to the council. The council can and could administer it. And what are the real advantages of having a charity to do it?
I think it's to save tax, isn't it?
Aren't there, I mean, there are tax,
There's always investments, the amount of tax they would have to do would be astronomical. As it's a charity, we don't have to pay tax.
I don't know what the,
That's the idea of forming the charity.
That's it.
Otherwise, the amount of investment she's got, we would be about, I don't know, maybe 27.
Yeah, Councillor Carter.
Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah, I think this is the crux, this is the position that we're in now, and we've got to decide there's two routes, and we've got to decide which route we go down. But we've got to be very careful because with the levics, as the chair quite rightly said, we've 18 months and quite a bit of money, of public money, we've spent going down this route of charity. Let's not embarrass ourselves at this stage. As the chair said, it's 18 months. We've been trying to get this set up. And now after 18 months and all this money, there's a lot of disquiet about should we actually go down route B. Well, we've got to make a very big decision this evening which route we're going down. But we've got to be careful because obviously there is some discredit. If we suddenly choose route B from route A, we've wasted 18 months of the public's time and 18 months of their money.
no, I think I agree with you, Councillor Carter. It's too late now to go back and say, let's tear up this and let's.
It would look embarrassing to this
We're stuck
council.
with it and we've just got to
Exactly.
get it in a form which
Unfortunately.
we're all happy with.
Exactly.
Okay, Councillor Franklin.
Yeah, I think that's why the old Sandwich Borough Council formed Tollbridge funds to make a charitable fund. Otherwise, if they'd just, well, if they'd have put it one side, Dover District Council would have just swallowed it up. But that is why the old Borough Council created the Tollbridge Fund. Otherwise, it'd just been assets of the town, wouldn't it? So, and that's why it's been going for 50 years, and I think we just keep it this one as a new charity.
Okay, Councillor Wiles.
I think the view of the committee is that they're not happy with levics and the way that they dealt with this generally. So my view would be to pursue what the town clerk said, and that we go to Gurley's.
Yeah.
If you like a second opinion. If that second opinion completely contradicts what levics are saying, then I think we need to go to levics and query and advise them, give them a fee we might or might not pay.
Yeah, I would like to suggest that we redouble our efforts with the Charities Aid Foundation, and maybe if the mayor was to call them and speak to them, or I'm quite happy to call them and speak to them, because not only do they offer advice when establishing a charity, but they also are, fund managers in their own right, so they would be interested in that role. So I think there's an opportunity there to do something with them. And in terms of the big decision, besides the tax, I think one of the real benefits and strengths of establishing a charity is to actually keep the Sandwich Town Council kind of accountable, because at the moment it's totally at their discretion. And that's why I'm very keen that we have representatives from local organisations, because in my line of thinking, the town council is really the custodian of this money, which belongs to the local organisations. And I would not want future town councils in 10 years or whatever. And I think it's in the best interests of Georgina, because it is a fabulous gift to try and make this work in perpetuity. And so I'm strongly in favour of getting the charity route, if we can find the right form of words that will allow us to get the objectives that Georgina, her wishes, achieved. So I think the proposal then is, number one, that we go to Girlings and we approve the money, because the council is holding some £40,000 of Georgina's money at the moment. So
Yep.
there is funds available to do it. We redouble our efforts with the Charities Aid Foundation. We maintain the intention to form a charity.
Yes.
So those are the three items on the proposal. Would anybody like to formally propose it?
I've got a query before we go to this, the timeline of this, because I think at the moment, because we've been adrift for 18 months, and we need to try and put some sort of timeline on this, don't we? I agree with the items that you've suggested, but it's with Girlings, you know, if we go to Girlings, we don't want them saying, oh yeah, we could do this for you in 6 months' time or something like that. I think we really need to start putting thumb screws on and saying this is going to be done by, and give a date. And if Girlings can't do it by that date, well, there's lots of other organisations that we could go to. So.
Okay, so I'm happy with that, in the sense that if we ask for them to do it within 2 weeks' time, we can bring a report to Sandwich Town Council at the end of July.
Exactly.
Okay, Councillor Craig.
Can I just add to that? I think this is really important, because we know where we are. The next council meeting is in September. So you can't go to this, can't go back to September.
There is an extraordinary meeting planned. The Mayor's already said that there's at least 2 other items that will need an extraordinary meeting, and this was a third. So there is a planned extraordinary meeting in July.
In July.
Mhm.
Do you have a proposed date for that?
We will be in a position to put a proposal to the council by July if we're going back to, because after that, it's going to take the charity commission, I think, between 60 and 90 days to approve an application once the document goes into them. So here we are now, and it's going to be January, probably, before.
That's what I mean, 6 months, another 6 months.
I take some solace in the fact that when the original application went in, the Charity Commission came back within a couple of weeks, didn't they? They didn't.
2 to 3 weeks, yeah.
They didn't take.
Well, my experience of forming 2 charities recently, it has been between 60 and 90 days, but maybe not.
Oh well, we can only.
I'd also like to raise one other point, which is slightly not relevant, which is relevant, and that is we've got, the council has got some of Georgina's money which is sitting on. Is there any reason why the council cannot consider grant applications which may be made to it in the meantime before the charity is incorporated? I know the council have resolved that a charity should be set up, but is there anything which would stop the council now considering applications, if there are any urgent applications which community groups might want to make to it?
I think that's something that maybe we should be asking Girlings or the Charity Aid Foundation. I haven't got a kind of a definitive view.
I'm sorry, no, that isn't a question I've asked of anybody, but I'm happy to take that away and ask the question.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Chair, can I just ask, I'm sorry, Claire. Can I ask
Of course,
something?
yes.
Because
My concern is that we've already been turned down once by the Charity Commission. And we're now discussing the implication of making grants to non-charitable organisations which are not registered charities, although the implication from this redrafted
Charity incorporation.
charity incorporation is that maybe that in itself creates a problem as far as the Charity Commission is concerned. So I really do want to hear from this committee what Plan B is if the Charity Commission turns down the application again, because it is perfectly possible that they will do that. And I think this committee has to take account of that possibility, and that there may indeed come a point when the town council has to run this fund. And it's not a registered charity, it's some other kind of organisation within the town council.
Well, in making any application, there's always the risk. So I think we've got to address that when we get to it. And in the interim, we've already said, let's pose the question if we can make interim grants before the charity status is established.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we should wait for the door to complete, really. Hopefully we get done soon, but start chipping at it, and then people will say, well, I know what they were going to say, aren't they? They're going to say, well, certain organisations getting a cut of it when it's not ready to complete. We've got to be very careful what we do.
Well, I take great solace in the fact that if you were to look at what the initial bequest was based on the probate valuation, the value of the portfolio has grown several £100,000 whilst, this delay has taken place. So the money has not been wasted, the money has grown and is still there.
Can I just address what Councillor Franklin has just said? Because I don't see why a process for inviting grants and assessing them should be any different if it's run by the town council than if it's run by a charity. It will be identical and presumably transparent and fair, and seen to be as so. And I can't see why not being a charity would necessarily make it untransparent or unfair.
Councillor Wild, did you?
I tend to agree with that. The money was left to Sandwich Town Council, so before the charity is formed, the money is under the council's control.
I think we're posing the question. Let's get an answer to the question, and then we can make a decision.
Yeah. It's all supposition at the moment, isn't it?
Okay. So, did we vote on that proposal then? Because I think you wanted some clarification on the timelines, and we're going to aim to have this
2 weeks, you said.
Sorry, in
2
2 weeks, to be able to.
Is that the 28th?
Well, we don't know the date of the extraordinary
No,
general
no.
meeting, because it's not July yet. So we're talking to the 15th of July or something like that.
I think it was the 3rd week of July, but I don't have a date in front of
But
me.
if it's 2 weeks,
2 weeks, that's what you just
yeah.
said. Yeah.
So if
it's
we
a
can
deadline.
try and get a response from Girlings or the Charity Aid Foundation by the 15th of July,
Yep.
we then have time to draft the paper
Yep.
or report for the following week or
Yep.
the week after.
Okay.
Okay, are we happy with that then?
I'm happy to second that. Are you proposing? for the
No, I
chair?
think Councillor Wild's proposed it.
Okay, I'm happy to second that.
All in favour? Okay,
Is that abstaining, Councillor Gray? Are you abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
the second part of agenda item 7 is members to consider the draft grant making policy and form recommendations to the council. So there's a draft watermark on the document, which is page 24. Does anybody have any comments on this document? Okay, just to start the ball rolling, I think the application in terms of the policy, we should really see 3 clear sections. I think the bullet points are a little bit jumbled up. To be quite honest, I'd prefer to see bullet points numbered either 1 to X or A to B, so that it's easier to refer to them.
Okay.
And I think there should be kind of 3 sections. Full grants and applications will be made to the charity standard application form, which must cover in suitable detail. And I think there's 3 broad categories. 1, the applicant's details. 2, the details of the project.
Thank you.
And 3, the declaration. So I can send you a copy.
Oh, thank you.
The applicant's details, who they are, who the contact details are, what's the status of the applicant, what's the purpose of the organisation that they're in, and kind of have they got any links to Georgina Maddox, or did they have any links? Those types of things. Then the second thing, the details of the project, what are they going to spend the money on, what's the description, what's the budget, what's the timeline, what are the benefits, those types of things. And then a declaration to say that the funds would be used for the project only, that they would declare and a commitment to prepare a report on the expenditure, and to say that they were independent of the charity. So those are declarations by the applicant rather.
Yeah.
So I think with a little bit of restructuring there, I think these bullet points, some of them which I've kind of talked about, could be better organised.
Will there be a cap on how much they can apply for a grant?
I wouldn't have thought so.
Which sees money, otherwise we're getting people come back every year.
Well, I think what we actually said when we were briefing Levix was we prepared an overview of the charity which the council approved at the time, which basically said that we would not pay out more than the dividends received. And with the charity now with funds in the order of £3 million at 3 or 4%, you know, that's £120,000 a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Wiles.
Yes, so just a couple of, there's a typo, 3rd line. It's sort of has no apostrophe. Possessive pronoun. The penultimate bullet point, it says the name of at least 1 trustee, but we're talking about registered charities with trustees and other groups that have charitable, so they won't necessarily have a trustee.
Correct. Yeah. So that's why I was saying before we need to understand the status of the applicant. Okay. So are we in broad agreement that we can just alter that document? I'm quite happy to work with you on that, Town Clerk, just to bring that about if people would like to propose. And again, this will come to the full council. Everybody in agreement? Or would anybody like to vote?
Yeah.
All
Thank
in
you.
agreement there.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the final item for discussion tonight is the appointment of 7.3 members to consider the options for administration, including the recruitment of a clerk for the charity. Members to form a recommendation to the council. Open to the floor, Councillor Wiles.
Yeah, I fully support this in principle, because all of the work so far has fallen on the town clerk. I'm not sure if the council has been funded by the charity for the work they've done to date, so it's all fallen on Jill's shoulders, effectively, essentially. And I think it's clear that this has to be an independent charity, which makes its own decisions annually about who does its administration, whether it has an office here or somewhere else, etc. Fully independent, and I think with all the additional work falling on the town council, it makes sense for the charity to have its own clerk, as SUC does, for example, other charities in the town, perhaps 1 or 2 days a week, whatever the requirement might be. And it makes sense for that to happen.
Okay. Any other?
No, I agree absolutely with that. It's really important that the charity is and is seen to be independent of the council and independent of the Tilbridge Fund. And indeed its own part-time club. Absolutely.
I'm a Haven commissioner, they've got an excellent clerk there, so I think she'd be.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, Andrew Kelly,
Yeah, she's
Andrew
excellent
Kelly
clerk.
is a clerk of
Paul Haven.
Haven. She's also clerk to the Sound United Charities, and she knows exactly what's required. And I think if she's prepared to take on this
There's all
additional
your charities.
work, I think she would be absolutely ideal. Does anybody know Andrea?
Well, I think we should advertise the role, and you can make her aware of the role. But I don't think it's appropriate for us to, you know, just.
No, not in the league, but we've got an example of
Yeah.
that sort of person who we need. She is.
All very well. With 2 charities, didn't she? There's over 2 charities already, so.
Okay, Councillor
Sorry,
Carr.
thank you, Chair. Yeah, the only thing you would have to be careful of there is obviously if you had somebody that had multiple roles, that there wasn't any conflict of interest. So with all due respect, if the Port and Haven wanted to make a grant application,
Of course.
there would be a conflict of
Thank you
interest.
very much.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Carr. Wild, sorry.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to propose that we agree this in principle,
Yeah.
subject to the charity being established in
Yeah.
by Christmas.
And then
Okay.
And advertise at that point.
Just before that, I'm grateful to the town clerk because she submitted a report here in which she sets out basically a job description for this person. Or it was a paper that you sent out,
Yes.
an additional paper.
Yeah.
So we effectively have a job description. So I would like to suggest that we develop that as a formal job description and an advert for the role, and we decide on the level of remuneration that, you know, that the charity is prepared to pay. And, you know, to that end, if anybody can give any soundings on remuneration or conditions, that would be useful. And I think we ought to be thinking about 1 day a week or 45 weeks work a year type of thing. Councillor.
So yeah, thank you for that, Chair. I was going to just suggest that this shouldn't be on the proposition that it does become a charity, because the workload's still going to be there. So with all due respects, if we get turned down or don't get turned down, it shouldn't be on the proposition that we become a charity. The work's currently there because our town council, town clerk is doing the work currently. So I would like to actually see this sooner rather than later myself, not waiting until the charity starts,
Not waiting 6
to
months.
alleviate the burden on our current town clerk.
Because there's only a few months, isn't that? It's nice
Exactly.
to have somebody in place to actually.
If we had something in place beforehand. So I see expedition of this quicker rather than later myself. Let's not wait till we become a charity and then there's a change of town clerk. We've got a new town clerk in who's trying to learn the town clerk role. Let's expedite this as soon as we can.
Okay, so I think the proposal then is that this committee is in agreement that we should employ a clerk separate to the town council, and that should be done quickly. Members are invited to advise on remuneration. We'll develop a job description and an advert, and we'll have that available by the end of this month for the trustee to approve. Okay, so we're happy with that as a proposal.
And I'm happy to second that.
Okay. All in favour?
Unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much. That's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, before you close the meeting, can this committee just show appreciation for all the hard work that the town clerk has done up to now, publicly on view, because she's been juggling several roles and it's been a very difficult time, as you say, 18 months. So I just want to publicly give appreciation to Jill for everything she's done today. It's been exemplary.
Thank you for that, Councillor Carter. I think we're all of the same mind.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a date for the next meeting. I'm just trying to get to it.
8th of September.
The 8th of September, yeah. So hopefully we'll have the charity. I would tender my apologies because I'm not available on the 8th. So,
Okay.
Okay, so with that, we close the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you all for attending and for
1920.
participating.
1925. Thank you.
Is that 28th of September?
The 8th.
But in somehow in the council, town council